Hi, good morning. This is a Bitcoin morning brief. I hope you guys liked our thumbnail this morning. We have Giacomo, Rodolfo, Jimmy, and Tone on today, so this is going to be very special. Giacomo, Yoda. That's when I cannot actually look at this thumbnail because it kills me.
No, there has been some speculation that that the reason I'm Yoda is for my hate. That would be absolutely inappropriate, but maybe it's because I'm just very, very good with the Force.
And Jimmy, do you like your character? What character are you?
Jimmy's Luke.
Jimmy's muted.
Oh, Jimmy, we can't hear you.
You're still muted.
Yeah, I think I'm Luke, but it's not entirely clear. I refuse to be any characters that are not in 4, 5, or 6. And no Ewoks either. No, I can't be an Ewok.
You and Tone usually have a debate about this, about your favorite Star Wars.
No, seriously, we will have a debate.
Jimmy and I have a huge debate. I really like
episodes 1, 2, and 3 are.
Yeah, I really liked 1, 2, and 3. I like the Jedi characters in those episodes. Me and Jimmy are gonna have a big debate over Star Wars here.
Oh God, no! Really, Sand? It's so coarse.
Rodolfo.
It gets everywhere.
Yeah, I'm Han Solo there. I still think that Jedis are all extremist religious people.
Oh my God, you guys. I think Giacomo's the one that loves us the most. No, probably Tone. Tone, please talk about your character.
All
Do you
right,
feel one with your character?
Yeah, no, I want it to be half Sith and half Jedi. But all right, let's we got a lot of news to cover. Let's jump on.
Let's do it. I'm just saying that if anyone can figure out who I am, that's very impressive. So that'll be the trivia of the day. Obviously, I am not Princess Leia, although I kind of want it to be. All right, let's jump in. Back to Jimmy, actually. So Jimmy is having the carnivory dinner. I love it. Chicago. Jimmy, tell us about it.
Well, it's going to be at Fogo de Chão Brazilian Steakhouse. So it's going to be a lot of fun. There's already like 20-something people. So, and you're going to get something, not just dinner. And Tona and I will be there. We might try to record something. I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll have fun, hang out. Eat lots and lots of meat and gorge ourselves probably to meat poisoning. But yeah, that's what we will do, and it will be a lot of fun. Note that if you don't buy a ticket now, it will cost more at the door. And in fact, if we do go past 40 people, then I'm going to up the rates regardless. So sign up now if you want to get in at this rate.
Is there still a good amount of tickets left?
What's that?
Fogo de Chão is very tasty. Good.
Yes,
Brazilian.
Yes, it is.
Go.
But there still are a good amount of tickets, or just a couple ones left?
I think there's like 13 at this price. Yes.
All right, guys, jump on. And Tone, I heard you did.
13 left at this price.
Wow. Yeah. And Jimmy did say that you're going to be there.
Tone, you're going to be there, right?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to be there.
Okay, because then I would have lied to everybody.
Love it. All right, actually, and Rodolfo, you have news too. Ultrasonic welder closing. Look at this. This looks so cool.
It's a lot of fun. We were at the factory yesterday. So we shipped a few units, and then we needed an extra machine. The previous machine was sort of being too slow, so we got a new one, and it's pressing cases, closing down the units, and we're bagging them and shipping them out. So if you haven't got yours, just hold on, because there's a big line, and you get an email.
Yay. And someone said Ashoka. That is correct. I am Ashoka in that picture. Okay, so let's move on. So Bitcoin's Taproot privacy tech is ready, but there is a catch. Jimmy, can you tell us about Taproot, and also what did you think about the news on this?
Well, so Taproot is something that is more or less like privacy preserving. You don't have to know what the conditions are to unlock this thing. In many ways, it's kind of like pay to script hash made even better. But the nice thing about Taproot is that privacy property. It's not like confidential transactions, which would make it entirely private, but it does sort of introduce that. And the nice thing is, Andy Poelstra put together that security proof, and it's fairly simple the way it's designed. The question is, when do we want to put it in, and how would it sort of roll out? And that's always sort of the tricky part, because if it's a soft fork, then you need, how are we going to roll it out? We haven't really tried BIP8 yet, and stuff like that. But yeah, like it's kind of nice because it does hide the multi-sigs from single sig. And I like the direction Taproot and Graftroot are going, mostly because they are based on real world use cases. A lot of smart contracty stuff tends to be very focused on, oh, you can do X, Y, and Z, except nobody uses it for X, Y, and Z. What we've noticed about and what we've learned over the last 9 years in Bitcoin is that people want a very specific type of smart contract, namely, just pay to a private key hash or pay to something a little more complicated called multi-sig. But that's what this is very much optimized for, is one key or a multitude of keys, some M of n or something like that. So that's the direction we're going in, and we don't need to necessarily utilize like very complicated script to do it. And simplifying on the script side is very much a way to make things less complicated and easier to analyze. So I think this is a very good thing. The real question for me is the rollout.
So thank you, Jimmy. Giacomo, following up on what Jimmy just said, Town is explaining that it is simple enough to go in straight away, but without Schnorr, that it doesn't get you all the way to where you want to go. So what do you think about what Jimmy's saying about rollout and the fact that you need Schnorr?
So of course you do need Schnorr. Also this connection, this kind of order of the upgrades also relates with the fact that, as Peter Will SIPA explained on Twitter, probably the first soft fork in order to introduce Schnorr will not be the one that will directly include all the signature aggregation stuff, because there are two things here. One thing is to make Bitcoin nodes able to interpret a Schnorr signature in order to use that instead of the ACDCA. And that's one thing. And this is soft fork, is not very disruptive, is pretty simple. But then you need another soft fork in order to be able to change all the way the script validation goes, in order to be able to do transaction level signature aggregation and eventually all this other stuff. And this is a separate thing which is more complex. And I think that the article is, I like this article because I think, as far as I understand these things, which is not completely at all, but it really explains the problem. Like every time you change fundamentally the way the scripts work, you probably want to change the address format as well, and changing the address formats in 7 times in a row is bad for privacy, because from the kind of address that people is using, you can guess which kind of technology they are, or which kind of upgrade they are following. So it would be probably better to stuff everything into a single soft fork when script is concerned. Also, one of the reasons that I like that they are thinking about finding some kind of generalization, which I think is badly needed, is that Taproot is not the only big idea in this space. Of course, Taproot is great as an idea, but then a few days later, G. Maxwell came out with Graftroot, which is another great idea, which is partly overlapping, but partly orthogonal to Taproot, and also the established concept of must, which already has the 2 BIP for implementation, one by Lau and one by Friedbach. They are also partly redundant with some parts of Taproot and Graftroot. So I'm quite convinced that there could be a generalization. So smart guys in the area, so SIPA, Gregory, Andrew, Polstra, I hope they are coming out with some kind of high-level generalization that can have the nice thing of everything. Because right now I'm personally a bit confused about which one I will pick over a bunch. Also, as Jim explained, this is we can call it a second layer privacy in a way, because it doesn't hide the transaction itself, the amount, the sender, the receiver, but it hides any possible overcomplicated smart contract as a simple transaction, at least in the standard resolution.
Thanks, Giacomo. And Rodolfo, what do you think? What do you think about what you read?
Yeah, no, I think Giacomo really nailed it. There's a bunch of other things coming because of the range proofs you can have with Schnorr, and but all these things are sort of like still up in the air, and it's still a little bit ahead. I guess the only thing that I really want to say is that I hate the rhetoric that you have in the beginning of this article when this person say that Bitcoin privacy is appalling. This is not correct. I mean, Bitcoin is fairly anonymous. It's just that like you can screw yourself up too easy, right? But Bitcoin is like fairly anonymous. And the way that a lot of the anonymizing analysis works is by clustering, right? So they figure out, okay, so this address, look at all these addresses, it probably is part of this wallet, and sort of go from there. But it's actually not that hard to get over those, and especially when you're using tumbling or join markets and things like that. Yeah, I just really want to bang this point is that we have to stop saying that Bitcoin is appalling for privacy, which is not true.
Thanks, Rodolfo. And Tone, final thoughts on the piece on Taproot?
Sure. I mean, once again, the technology stuff is being saved for guys like Giacomo, all three of you guys, especially Rodolfo and Jimmy. I will say that I will continue to keep saying what I've been saying for years, that privacy and scalability is coming. And they're both going to be way more efficient on second layer solutions. I've been saying this for years without the ability to actually read the code, because it only makes logical sense based on all my experience of working with developers for 10 years before coming into the crypto space. And I can absolutely see amazing fungibility, amazing privacy, and obviously scalability in second layer solutions. You just can't stuff it all in the first layer, and this will take a little bit of time. I like the fact that both scalability and privacy are being built out kind of equally and slowly and professionally and efficiently. So I am very happy with the underlying Bitcoin protocol and where it's headed.
Thanks, Tone. And let's go to more code. So the code for an anonymous Lightning network is now live. So this piece is saying that, and actually we have the GitHub, I'll pull that up in a second, that this Dr. Akinyele, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, has built Bolt. And this was first conceived by Zcash founders, Matthew Green, Ian Myers, back in 2016. So this is saying that as Lightning is able to solve scalability, Bolt is able to solve privacy. Now, our InfoSec expert here, Rodolfo, what do you think about this?
So Lightning was already fairly private, right? I mean, it does have sort of like a very similar network as Onion, right? So it hops from node to node, and it's very hard to trace which node initiated to know who is the actual originator of the message or transaction. Now, Bolt seems pretty cool too, because it does use blind signatures, and with those you can actually hide the amount as well. So before you could see the amount, now you can actually hide the amount too. So it's kind of like a private message to somebody going to somebody you don't know. Like, it doesn't really get cooler than that. I find that awesome, and I think this is gonna it's gonna take off pretty well.
Fantastic, Jimmy. What are your thoughts? You're on mute as well. Still mute.
Yeah, sorry. Setting up my light here so that you can actually kind of see my face. Anyway, yeah, the zero knowledge part is sort of moon mathy to me still, and I don't really understand that part of it, and that's at the heart of what this is. That said, like Rodolfo said, Lightning is already pretty private. The only people that actually learn about your transaction are the people along your route, and it's blinded for anybody in the middle. It's really the two endpoints that know everything about it. Of course, either endpoint can go tell everybody exactly what happened, but Generally, the big thing is that you have some level of privacy already. So this could be useful if that sort of thing is a concern. I'm not sure how necessarily useful it is given how Lightning already is.
Thanks, Jimmy. And Giacomo, do you agree with Jimmy for especially the usefulness? And what else do you think about Bolt in general?
Yeah, I am in general. So the problem with Bolt is that the acronym was used before to indicate the routing algorithm of Lightning itself. So the protocol that Lightning developers are using to interoperate between different implementation, which is now defined by the RFC on GitHub, was initially called the Milan protocol because it was actually developed in our desks in Milan while we were bringing pizza, and actually it was already called Bolt a few months after. So. Now this technology is presented as something new, but the use of the B of blind it was already in there for the general protocol. So the naming convention is a little bit confusing. Anyway, I think that this library is interesting because it's a library that should be. We didn't study it yet, but we were taking a look at it. I think. Or something with one of my developers.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. Someone is playing our video in the background, and it's coming through.
I don't hear it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I hear it.
No mind. That was weird.
Okay.
Sorry. We're back.
Okay. And anyway, it could be interesting because even if I'm not personally interested in Zcash or other altcoins, a general, and since Zcash is a fork of an old instance of an old version of Bitcoin, so the compatibility of this layer should be pretty much high. So I hope that this library, if it's not very Zcash specific, could be a nice nice Bolt library for Bitcoin Lightning implementations as well. So I think we will take a look at it. It could be interesting.
Thanks, Giacomo. And Tone, thoughts on this? Now you're muted.
Sorry,
Sorry.
just a second. Sorry, I was wrong. Just a very quick flash. Initially, Bolt was not blind off-chain lightweight transaction, but it was the acronym for basis of Lightning technology. So the name Bolt was already the name of the base protocol in the beginning.
Thanks, Giacomo. Tone?
Yeah, so it's everything I said before about Lightning second layer scaling being obviously scaling for transactions and also more private. But in this case, like my curiosity is more like, how exactly does this have to do with Zcash, right? I mean, Zcash is they were pushing for privacy on the front layer. This sounds like privacy on the second layer. I'm not very familiar with these guys. How are they affiliated with Zcash? Maybe somebody on this panel knows.
So,
and yeah.
Yeah, so it's just that Matthew Green and a few other people were working on zero knowledge proofs. And sort of like that's sort of where Zcash came from. It's from that tree. You know, like I think it's like Jimmy said, there is a lot of sort of like moon math in zero knowledge proofs. It's not one of those things that we're sort of like, you know, fully settle on. Now the blind signatures is pretty cool, and that stuff is sort of like used and is pretty proven.
Okay, so it sounds like they created the zero knowledge proofs, but did other people around? I mean, were they actually part of the whole Zcash, you know, launch? Were they involved? Are they collecting the 20% miner premium, or was it just their idea for zero knowledge proofs used in Zcash? And these guys are still like, you know, looking to develop on Bitcoin with Lightning.
Those things are completely unrelated. Zcash is like, you know, Zuko's sort of like thing on using zero knowledge proofs to create a coin, and that became a pre-mine scam. Well, not pre-mine, just a text on top.
Right. Tax,
Instamine and text.
Exactly. But, you know, these things are not new. They're just sort of like they were leveraged to create Zcash. Zcash has sort of nothing to do with the creation of this math. It's just one implementation using it. The same way that Spec256, like how Bitcoin is mined, or SHA-256, how Bitcoin is, how we create Bitcoin keys, are not like created by Bitcoin. They're just used by Bitcoin in the clever way that Bitcoin uses them. This is just sort of like other ways of doing cryptography, cryptocurrency.
If you search for it, you can see Gregory Maxwell again already mentioning the possible use of Zk-snarks in some forum post of 2013, beginning of 2013. So it's not a Zcash guy invented Zk-snarks. They actually use Zk-snarks in production with this altcoin.
Tone, did you have one last follow up on that?
No, that's it. We can move on. Got a lot of stories to cover because we may not do a morning brief tomorrow because of the law show. And these things are very early for me on the West Coast.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So we are going to come back to an interesting mining story in a second. But in the meantime, we are going to move to Coinbase. Blow to Bitcoin as Coinbase CEO makes stark warning. So pretty simply put, it's kind of interesting. I mean, Cointelegraph was reporting something differently, but Brian Armstrong was speaking, and first of all, he said that they're signing up 50,000 users, but at the same time, this article is at least reporting that he's very worried about the current bubble, and it's a bit of a mixed bag of what they're really saying. Tone, what did you think when you read this?
Yeah, slight correction on that one. They were signing 50,000 users per day at the height of the price. He actually refused to comment on how many they're signing up today. At the bottom of the article, they say that he didn't comment on how many they're signing up. My guess is they're signing up very, very few right now. They're signing up very few right now because, again, the Google Trends are showing you that not too many people are interested in buying Bitcoin right now. And Brian Armstrong is realizing that it's not the right environment yet. I mean, he's right. We probably are a few years away from Bitcoin being used for small transactions. And one of the reasons is because Lightning is just not there yet to make those transactions simpler and cheaper and faster. And the other thing is, look, Bitcoin is still mostly store of value, and it's still mostly a speculative instrument with still lots of questions from people about its future regulatory environment. It's just not there yet. Just give it a couple of more years. I think towards the end of the next bull run in Bitcoin, when it is approaching, $40,000, $50,000 a coin, we're going to see it being used way more as a transactional currency. I'm waiting for one more bubble.
Thanks, Tone. And Rodolfo, what were your thoughts? It, I think, ties in interestingly to your tweet today. What do you think?
I think Brian sort of became a politician long ago, and he'll say whatever serves his current narrative. Coinbase is a behemoth of a centralized thing that is not really Bitcoin yet. It's still very good to send very early people there to buy their first Bitcoin because it is easy. They did get that right. I have to give it to them. But he even said this, he wrote this massive essay a couple of years ago, right? Saying, Coinbase is not a wallet. He needs to sort of either shit or get off the pot. It's like, decide what your company is and stop sort of dissing Bitcoin. We have to remember, right? This is the guy who sort of said that Ethereum is better, Ethereum is dying. This is the guy who said that he's not a wallet, and yet he says he's a wallet. This is the guy who supported 2x and I think even Bcash with the Bcash scam of insider trading of Bcash. I mean, this is a company that, became very big, and now he gets bored and comes up with announcements. And I have a feeling that companies like this are going to sort of go the MySpace way. As it becomes easier to buy your first Bitcoins with, for example, Cash App from Jack, The Cash App, you download the app, you buy some Bitcoin, boom, you can take it out. Now, Coinbase is this sort of massive convoluted system. The Toshi system was kind of cool in the beginning, but if it used to probably cost, I don't know, a few tens of thousands of dollars to run Toshi a few years ago. Now I can't even imagine what the server bill would be for running Toshi, which their claim is they're not new basis for their wallet. So anyways, I think that people just should ignore what Brian has to say. Is always the safest bet. He's always on the wrong side, always the losing side of the argument.
Perfect. Thank you, Rodolfo. We're going to move back to the Australian stock exchange that I couldn't find before, and then we're going to come back to Coinbase, if that's okay with everybody. So this is really interesting. With Bitcoin sinking, crypto miners just dig deeper. Definitely people are always asking about this question. So the Australian Securities Exchange, the ASX, which is the 16th largest.
Yeah, that's a different article. That's the one right next to that tab. This is the mining article.
Done.
Yeah.
Got it. So let's go back to that one. So ASX details 23 billion opportunity behind upgrade to tech inspired by Bitcoin. Back to my explanation. Thank you. Australian Securities Exchange, that's the ASX. Again, 16th largest exchange in the world, no small deal. So they've explained that they're going to be rolling out and implementing a DLT. And this is from their current CHESS, C-H-E-S-S. So Jimmy, just right into you. What do you think about them doing this rollout, this implementing a DLT?
Yeah, big surprise that somebody that invests tries to hype that thing up so that their investment, get some momentum or whatever. This is just so stupid. I mean, like they put in some money, and of course they're going to try to use it. They're going to find that it costs way too much, it's too slow, and it's really just kind of an expensive database. Yeah, like a lot of these guys that are in these giant businesses, this is the big thing. They're all very fragile, and they're one mistake away from being from collapsing. This is something that Rodolfo hinted about with Brian Armstrong. These are companies that are spending tons and tons of money on different things. And if they make a bad bet, here's the thing about these big companies, they might just die off, right? Like, Sears, for example, didn't move quickly enough online, and Amazon has eaten their lunch. So same thing with Borders. These guys don't know what they're doing, and a lot of what they're doing is to appeal to shareholders or something like that, and to look hip or look like they're trying or something like that. That's generally what happens with these players, is that they want to put out press releases or whatever. I think Giacomo called it proof of news. That's what this is. Same thing with Coinbase. He just sort of says things. I don't know what Brian's problem with Bitcoin is. He won't even say the word Bitcoin anymore. He always says like cryptocurrency or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'm noticing that, I'm sure you guys talked about this last week. Bitmain invested and is supporting Bitcoin Cash, like to a degree that they might get broken. And I see similar things happening. You can't, Brian, if you're listening to this, if you keep going down this route, you're going to end up a lot like Bitmain, and you don't want to get squeezed out of your Bitcoin position. You're going to have to make peace with the fact that you don't control it, or that any group of, big companies don't control it either. And if you want a corporate coin that you can control, go do that. But good luck on that. You're probably going to fail. But if you don't make peace with Bitcoin, Bitcoin's going to punish you. And there's already a bunch of people like, Rodolfo and many others that think cash is a lot better. Jack's a lot friendlier to Bitcoin, and you're going to have your lunch eaten.
It's cash is maximalist.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm gonna have to go, guys.
Hey,
Sorry
hey.
about that, but
All right,
Jimmy,
Jimmy,
you
quick
wanna-
comment. Oh, wait, quick comment on you on mining versus hash rate. Price goes down. Mining is still, hash rate is kind of up there. Your one sentence thoughts?
yeah, so the way mining works is that once you've done the capital investment, you have no choice more or less than to keep mining, even if it's at a slight loss. Because if you turn off the mining equipment, you have like an even bigger loss. You kind of have to hope for the price going back up or something like that. This is why mining is a very weird industry, and you have to be prepared for the ups and downs. It's all great when price continues to go up and you can put a lot of investment in, but at a certain point you have to be hyper efficient. There's a lot of disruption still there, and this is why I've been saying, like, Bitmain doesn't own everything, right? Like, people get concerned about mining centralization or whatever. Big companies make a lot of mistakes. So yeah. Anyway, I gotta get going. Sorry about
Thanks,
this.
Jimmy. We're gonna find out from you next time if you're still holding the B trash. But
Well, I don't. I
you sold it all.
I sold it all, so I no longer hold any. And yeah, all I own are some Bitcoins and like a couple of others, but they're very hard to get rid of for various reasons. So yeah.
So thanks, Jimmy. We have your Bitcoin Carnivory Club announcement back up on the screen. Everybody buy tickets. And Jimmy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jimmy.
No song?
Oh, this song is done.
Awesome. All right.
Well, you know what? Let's stick with the ASX and mining one. Then we'll go back to Coinbase because there's like another Coinbase with the damn identity thing.
Good. I actually found the ASX super interesting. Again, obviously, he made this very large PowerPoint. Of course, he's saying that this is going to save a lot of money. I'll go to you, Giacomo. What do you think about them switching to CHESS, to this DLT system? Safe, not, proof of news? Just what do you think?
Same things as the other. I'm sorry I cannot differentiate my contribution to my comments to this kind of news, but I think it's really the same pattern. Jimmy already explained it. There could be something good coming out of renewing database systems under new, more sophisticated security assumption. So it's not that taking your old database and making it new with some digital signature, with some data redundancy is a bad thing itself. The problem is why you are doing that. If you're doing that under a strategic review of your systems, knowing the costs and the benefits, that's probably going to help you. If you're doing that just because you have to pretend you're doing something blockchainish, because there is a right now fading hype about blockchain, then probably you will do that under a dome of cognitive dissonance. So your engineer will not really tell the truth to your CTO, because the CTO to please the CEO will have to pretend that this is very disruptive and this is not. So I don't know the specifics of this kind of project, but from a very general heuristics, I am arrogant enough to claim that this is going nowhere, even without seeing the specific, because it's a general process problem. You are doing stuff not because you decided to upgrade your database, but because you are following a hype desperately, trying to keep your business model, so staying away from Bitcoin, but at the same time you want to ride the hype. So I think it's still proof of news, and I would be super surprised if any one single positive thing came out from all these private blockchain bullshit.
Thanks, Giacomo. Rodolfo, follow-up thoughts?
Yeah, again, it's one of those. It's just proof of news. This is the Kodak model. You add blockchain to your name, therefore stock goes up and then crashes. The thing that I find fascinating, though, is there is enough news in the database space that you shouldn't need all this bullshit. I mean, Postgres has been including new features like every couple of years that are amazing for you to sign stuff and do all kinds of like more sort of like proof resistant things, sort of like more proof oriented things with a normal database that can actually be used. I mean, again, this cannot be overstated, is that blockchain is the most inefficient way for you to store and use data. It is useless if you're going to do it centralized or private, just pointless. Again, and even if you really, really, really wanted to go in that stupid way, you could still have your database and then just make a checksum or something and then put it in open timestamps into the blockchain. But it's just such a waste of time. And I'm still amazed that reporters at Forbes and at this sort of major publications have not clued in on the amount of BS these press releases are. I guess that's the most surprising, is how long it's going to take for Forbes to stop covering this kind of bullshit.
Well, we got to sell papers, right? Well, actually, no, there's no papers. Got to get those clicks. Tone, so there's this interesting aspect here where, this paragraph where they're saying, right, that, this is to reduce costs, but also, and remove fees isn't cheap. It's saying ASX also invested 21 million in digital assets, 110 million in total VC, and expects the project could take more than 5 years to complete. So, looks like some setbacks here. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, this is the digital assets hyperledger thing, which continues to just make everything seem weird, right? So Digital Asset Holdings acquired Hyperledger. This was going to be the blockchain without the token. And then they gave it over to IBM. And somehow Digital Assets is still involved. I have no idea what they're still doing. They did get $100 million in investments because of Blythe Masters. I mean, that was the name. And ASX Exchange invested 21 million into this venture, and now they're trying to, use what they've paid for. They're claiming that it's going to save billions. And the thing is, like what Rodolfo just said about blockchains is exactly correct. But I don't even think Hyperledger is a blockchain. I don't have a real problem with Hyperledger. They're just going to be another database, another centralized database. I think that's where they're headed. So while I agree with you, Rodolfo, that doing this on a blockchain is silly, I actually don't think they're doing it on a blockchain. Like the DLT is just a decentralized database with a bunch of admins, and it's not actually decentralized. It's just using the word decentralized. It's just like an Excel spreadsheet with a bunch of admins.
If there is
follow up on that.
If there is no chains of blocks, it's not a block of chains.
And there's not going to be any blocks there because, first of all, there's no mining going on, and they're not like there's no blocks in the system.
If there is no mining, there is no blocks to be included in a block. So there's no transactions to be included in the block to make a block of chains. Like, it's just read the word. Is it that hard? Like, I mean, seriously, reporters at Forbes, come on. It's a database. You call it decentralized. Use other hype words, AI, VR. There's other things to use. But read the word blockchain.
Well, I mean, I already done it on the show, I think. But if you can help me with opening the screen, I would like to take this occasion to promote my favorite private blockchain ever. XYZ. I already did it in the past. So this is my favorite private blockchain project. I urge everybody who's interested in private blockchain to download. You can also view it on GitHub. This is a fork of MySQL where tables are called blocks and records are called transactions. And it's like the FAQ are perfect. Everything is explained very, very fine. So if you need a private blockchain, please people go to my blockchain XYZ. You can download it, you can use it. It's tested, it's secure, and it's fine.
Yeah, this is like the opposite of that person that wrote a script that wrote a Google script that anytime the word blockchain appears in a headline, it gets replaced by a giant Excel spreadsheet held in a Google Doc. This is like the opposite of that.
Yeah, no, this is local. You can download it and install it local. So this is even safer than Google Sheet spreadsheet.
Oh my gosh. Well, Giacomo, I'm gonna let you have fun with this one in a second. So there's a lot of Coinbase news. We're gonna play around with a little bit here. Okay. Sorry. So we're gonna play around with this one. Coinbase doubles down on the future of digital identity. So simply put, Coinbase has acquired San Fran. There's a startup called Distributed Systems. It's a Wired article, but I liked it. And very simply put, Distributed Systems is going to help make identity, so AML KYC, much, much easier. It's going to make them know everything about us. Giacomo, what do you think about this acquisition?
I agree with everything Jimmy said before. I think Coinbase is the perfect example of the typical Silicon Valley super high time preference startup. So they don't follow a long-term strategy which make any sense. They follow the short hype of the moment. So there was Bitcoin was Bitcoin, but now, yeah, Ethereum, there is the flippening. Ethereum is going to be better. And now like identity and stuff, there's clearly not a strategy here. Also, you can have a very high time preference as typical Silicon Valley startup without being malicious or hostile to Bitcoin. And they choose not to do that, but instead they choose to be one of the major attackers against Bitcoin with 2x, as Rodolfo said, as Jimmy said. So I really hope that they will be disrupted by less malicious and less hostile alternatives like Cash App or even banks. I will prefer a boring old Swiss bank on banking becoming the privileged Bitcoin acquiring way instead of Coinbase. Still, we have to take into account the fact that right now, especially for US citizens, Coinbase is simple way to get on board. So we cannot fight over against the wine mills. They are here, but it would be so nice for the ecosystem if just like Bitmain, their hostility toward Bitcoin in the long run ended up to wreck them.
Thank you, Giacomo. And Rodolfo, please tell us your thoughts on privacy.
You wanna bet that the same VCs or friends of those VCs were the initial investors on this company Coinbase just acquired. So this to me stinks as the usual acqui-hire, and you get at least a PR out of it. So they bought this company because they need more employees and probably nobody wants to work there, at least none of the smart people. So they acqui-hire a company. They have no intention of using their crap, but they make a press release out of it. Now, I guess the second thing is identity on the blockchain, in my opinion, is really stupid. You do not want permanent identity like stored like that. The way identity works great is sort of the PGP schema. So you have a private key that you can sign messages with and you can prove your identity. But you don't need that sort of sitting in some decentralized place because only you know the secret. The blockchain has nothing to do with it. It's mind-boggling useless. Coinbase, they cannot help themselves.
And I actually do think you're right. I was playing around on Crunchbase as my absolute favorite to just mess around when things are just hilarious. I'm going to be mean for a second. I love when companies like this right now in the blockchain space raise, 20 million and they have 3 employees, right? And one is called chief of staff, one's the COO, and one's the CEO. Sorry, I shouldn't be so mean, but it is so true. So actually, I was reading that this company, right, and it's just beyond full of buzzwords, was considering raising 4 to 8 million. People always make fun of me for abbreviating. And that they just ended up, getting acquired for a very minimal amount by Coinbase, and they had just like a 1.7 seed round is fairly decent by a VC called Floodgate. But I mean, for sure, I mean, for sure, it's all played. And you know, the amount of acquisitions that we've been covering by Coinbase is just bananas. You know, and just yeah, Rodolfo, you're about to say something.
Yeah, so I say that startups have the tribe syndrome. Everybody's chief of something on the first round of employees.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be chief of staff of none. I like I like your bio, Giacomo. It always makes me laugh. You know, it's yeah. Okay, and Mr. Tone.
Oh, I think Giacomo had one more thing to add.
Giacomo wants to speak.
Just a quick comment. No problem. Since I mostly commented about Coinbase itself, just one flash comment about digital identity in order to reinforce what Rodolfo said. Bitcoin is the solution to digital identity. Digital identity is mostly a hype, mostly a buzzword, because right now with centralized trust-based institution, we need digital identity in order to pay, basically. So digital identity is not a feature, it's a bug. We need it because with traditional legacy systems, we need identity in order to pay. With Bitcoin, Bitcoin is not a technology for digital identity. Bitcoin is the technology to overcome the need of a digital identity. We can still have digital reputation for feedbacks of merchants, but that's a different thing. Digital identity, as intended here, is a bug of the legacy systems, and Bitcoin is the fix, the patch.
Thanks, Giacomo. Tone, what are your thoughts? You love KYC AML. You're one of the boys that love it so much.
No, we've been talking about this for a while, like this crazy idea of putting your identity on the blockchain. And this article spends most of its time explaining why it makes absolutely no sense. Yet somehow, I guess they still think that it does. First of all, there's like 8 companies already that are trying to do identity on the blockchain, right? And they're all going to do it. So you're going to have like 8 identities on 8 different blockchains, right? On top of it, this article talks about how that identity is going to be on top of Ethereum. And when Ethereum eventually goes away, what happens to your identity? So it's really amazing. And they're like, well, the government has to approve your identity. So first, the government has to agree that whatever is in the blockchain is going to be, you know, approved by the government. And all they're doing is, well, now you don't have to have your social security number saved across like all of these other companies. And you're probably still going to, because how many of these companies are going to be trusting your identity on Ethereum? And whatever you put into the blockchain, I mean, how do you know that's actually true? Like the government is going to have to approve whatever you put into the blockchain and what blockchain you're putting it in. The only one you can even think about doing it with is going to be Bitcoin. And what happens when you lose your private key? Like none of this makes any sense at all. We always talked about it on this channel, how decentralized identity makes absolutely no sense. Like identity is the opposite of decentralization.
Actually, so identity is decentralized by definition. Everybody has theirs, and everybody's not one. So, you know, and what's fascinating about like proving identity is it's pretty much the same as proving you own Bitcoin, right? You have a private key, you sign a message or a transaction, and you transact. Because you're not transacting anything with ID, all you have to do is sign a message saying, I am this. You know, you can't fix this kind of stupid.
One last comment is like people are okay. So we now have a payment method that does not require identity, and for some reason, people now think that you need an easier way of having your identity. It's like the complete opposite of what the blockchain is now giving you.
So, and actually to add to that, my understanding, and they reported to Bloomberg, and sorry that I have a lawnmower in the background, is that they didn't need SEC and FINRA, you've been covering this in law review, but actually approval for a lot of their acquisitions, including that of Keystone. If you guys remember, we covered that one. So, I mean, like I assumed, and this is my own hypothesis, that a lot of what Coinbase has been doing for this is just given the news of money laundering and all this silliness by the congressman on the Hill. But, yep.
I think they upgraded from proof of news to proof of oxymoron. It really is the next, it's the next wave, right? I mean, like you can't, like we have to evolve
But here's the thing, like, how does Coinbase continue to make the dumbest decisions, like for
Well-
years and remain like at the top of the pyramid of Bitcoin companies? How's that possible?
Because they have eternal funding. There is too many people on that Ponzi. It's I mean, I don't think there is enough. Like, I think, you know, they got to Facebook level, right? So you can just keep on asking VCs for more money until you IPO. You just keep on taking more, taking more, taking more. That's it.
Well,
and they're gonna keep on doing this.
it's also not bad, right? That Coinbase, you know, submitted their written testimony for the subcommittee on capital markets, and that they have consistently been expert witnesses, and also at the World Bank. I mean, may have helped a little. You know, I don't
The
know.
Bilderberg conspiracy. I'm joking.
Oh my days.
Wait, no, that's Blockstream. Never mind.
All right. We're going to finish up with this mining story because I do want your guys' thoughts again, because, you know, this is what everybody asks, right? Like, not everybody, maybe not us all the time, but people always are asking about what happens with hash rate. So just simply put, I'm going to read the bullets. Rising hash rate shows many miners are still making a profit. Okay. And then small miners are getting squeezed out at the 6K price level. I will ask Tone later, just because I think that everybody should watch his video of when he tried to set up his miner. It was fantastically hilarious. If you ever want something fun to do instead of watch Netflix on the weekend. But Rodolfo, you know, what do you think?
So,
Yep.
See, what most people don't get is that like most of the large or even medium-sized mining operations do not sell their Bitcoin, so it doesn't matter. They're just borrowing money or being given money or have money fiat, okay, to run their operations, and then they're doing accounting the way big companies do. They're collecting debt. So they're collecting debt and collecting debt and collecting debt. And then what they will do is, you know, and say whenever they do decide to take some profit or sell off a bit to do something, big investment or whatever, then they will use all that debt against their newfound profit. But most mining operations do not sell their Bitcoin. This is a big misconception.
Thanks, Rodolfo. Unless, you know, you're Bitmain and you want to, you know, have fun with Bcash.
Oh,
That's a great idea to just, you know, go at a negative profit. Just kidding.
Right. But then Bitmain is a different problem, right? They went stupid and they sort of like thought they could sort of win the war, and they were bag holders of BCH, but still they were not selling for fiat, which is what you need to pay for electricity. And this is the key here.
Absolutely true. Moving to you, Giacomo, I think it was like 3 months ago, but I'll never forget. I really liked what you were saying, if you still feel the same way, that that miners, and in alignment, I believe, with what Rodolfo was saying, is that, and especially for Bitcoin, that we believe that it will go up. And therefore, despite what happens to the price, for the most part, we'll continue to mine because we do have that long-term vision, rather than, and this is actually back to Saifedean, of you know, short versus long-term time preferences. What do you think about when you read this story, and also as a follow-up to Rodolfo?
Yeah, I still think that that's the case. What Tom said before actually could be a mild proviso to this theory. I mean, this theory, in my opinion, makes sense. When you are a miner, you cannot follow the super short period, the super short 2 weeks market trembling. You have to have a vision for the next 10 years at least, if you want to do that kind of investments. So in Bitcoin, the market right now, the price, sometimes we think that the price of today is just giving out the information of what people would think that the value will be forever. But actually, that's not the case, because if I was a trader, I was thinking that for an accident, Bitcoin was going down for 2 weeks, I would just short for 2 weeks, because if I was convinced that I could make it and I could time the market well. So the one rational agent can be long on Bitcoin in the next 10 years and still be short on Bitcoin in the next 2 months. So his preference will reflect on the market bearishly I don't know if bearishly is an adverb, but anyway, in 2 weeks, but still bullishly in 10 years. And when you're a miner, you cannot look at the short run. What Tom said before, though, is true. When you are a miner, even if you have a bullish vision at the beginning, but then you start your business and you make your capital investment, then probably you cannot really change your mind anymore, because basically any kind of pivoting is failure in mining. So maybe there is a bullish bias toward miners, because they just cannot pivot easily out of a bullish long-term vision. So they're like forced to stay there. But anyway, I still think that the investments in mining, so the hash rate, it's a better long-run indicator than the day price. While the day price is a better short-term indicator of the sentiment of the market right now.
Interesting. Thanks, Giacomo. I have always been interested in this. I've sent you, questions on this before, Giacomo, about the exactly this chart. So, Tony, I want to ask you about it, but there's a caveat. I really think that you need to sing the Journey song of "Don't Stop Believing" before, because that's the header. So, if you could start by singing, then I'd like to hear your thoughts on this chart.
Oh God, no! Nobody wants to hear me sing it.
Oh yes, we do.
Yes, we. Absolutely.
Oh yes, we do.
Don't stop.
But I think our hash rate might have topped for the year right here, right now. When you see articles like this come out at this point in time, all of this hash rate that's been coming online in the last 3 to 4 months, all of that equipment was bought at the height of the market. There is probably, my best guess is an average of about 6 months between putting in that huge capital investment into mining and when that equipment gets delivered. And if you're like me, it'll take you 6 months to set up the miner after it's even delivered. The big mining operations are sure a little bit more efficient. And I do think a lot of that capital investment has slowed down probably around March. And right now is where they're probably shipping a lot less equipment. I do think that some smaller mining operations will be going out of business because they're not going to be profitable. This will help the bigger mining operations in that their competition is going to go out of business. I don't like the estimates of how much it costs to mine a Bitcoin. There were 2 estimates in that article. One put it at like 7,500 and the other put it at just above 6,000. I'm not sure how accurate those are. I find those very, very suspicious. I think that there are lots of big mining operations out there whose cost is no more than $3,000 to mine a Bitcoin. I think they're doing pretty well. Now, Rodolfo is also right. If you are running a very efficient mining operation, you have the capacity to hold on to those coins for at least a year, probably 2. If you're going into mining, you already have a precedent. You know that the bear market of 2014 lasted for 18 months. If you're going to be a miner, you have to have at least a 2-year window to hold on to the Bitcoin that you mine. That's how you're actually going to make a profit. However, when the Bitcoin goes up a lot, you can now sell it to buy more equipment. That equipment is now fully online. So I actually do believe that price of Bitcoin drives the hash rate, but on a 6 to 9 month delay. And this feels like a top in Bitcoin mining hash rate to me. And I think it will decrease into the end of year and then increase probably next summer or after that. Like I do think there's going to be a slowdown with this big correction.
Thanks, Tone. Rodolfo, any last thoughts?
I think the bottleneck on hash rate increase has to do with ASIC production and ASIC production competition. It seems to have sort of spiked a bit with the Halon mining equipment getting out there. Knowing how hardware production works, they probably sort of shipped the units they had, and you normally do a smaller run when you do do a product the first time. So I imagine they probably have a ton of skids coming in. I know people who have ordered a ton of gear from them, and it's still sort of shipping kind of thing. So I think we will see still quite a bit of hash rate increase as people get their ASIC shipments.
Yeah, my one final thought on this is like basically right now, a lot of these mining operations may need to make a quick decision here. Do they want to do a really quick round of funding in order to go all out on the next level of mining hardware and maybe skip this level? Those that haven't been able to purchase a bunch of Halong miners, they may want to ride this out, pick up some fiat investment while the price of Bitcoin is still low, and then pick up the next round of ASIC advancements. Or a better solution would be to pick up a bunch of Bitcoin if it drops another 50%.
So I agree with you that they should, but I actually think they will and are getting more fiat in, especially Chinese miners. For somehow they do get cheap fiat more than everybody else, and essentially free electricity. But what's interesting about the ASICs right now is that all the roadmap for new ASIC chips is all like small increments in efficiency. We're starting to sort of get to a point now that until a big player like Intel or NVIDIA.
Well, GMO is supposed to do something.
Yeah, so but we don't know if it's their main fab, their main people, or if it's just a contract and they're sort of just making something somebody else designed. So until we see a very, very big player that can put a ton of cores into a very power efficient package, I don't think we will see anything worth more than, just buying a few extras sort of like of the previous stack and run that at the same equivalent hash rate, your total mine.
Yeah, no, I can't argue with that. We do know that it's not going to be Kodak, at least.
It is picture perfect.
Oh, God. Tone, I actually have one last question for you on this before moving on. Anything interesting that you've noticed at the conference that you're at? I know that when you were speaking with Lee, that you were speaking about Halong mining and other miners that were at, I guess, had booths. I mean, I don't know. The video, it wasn't on the video, but you were speaking about it.
Yeah, Canon miners were here sponsoring the conference, so I got to talk to them a little bit. They're trying to go IPO as well, and I believe they're probably going to beat Bitmain to it. That's the miner that I run. I run a Canon miner, and yeah, they seem to still be optimistic about the space.
Nice. Rodolfo, what's the latest?
We've crossed 2,000 people. There is, I think, 2,200 people in my ultra compromised, centralized, privacy-less, shared hosting, Mastodon instance. It is fascinating. Like, people are so tired of having to censor themselves that they're willing to come to my centralized version of Twitter. Thankfully, you don't have to. I'm joking a bit. You can actually just go start your own instance and then sort of join this one and join others and sort of talk to other people. I'm still extremely not convinced that this system is good or could do any good. However, I cannot find any other alternative, and I've been looking, but it is sort of like good enough for now, at least for us to know how to move from one system to another system and keep the conversation going. But yes, remember, you are compromised on my system.
Yeah, Giacomo, thanks so much for liking everything that's going on.
No, it was great. So now I can launch a campaign. Since Rodolfo can see all our private messages on this instance of Mastodon,
oh, no.
let's start using a second layer encryption. So we will start publishing private messages on his Mastodon, but we will encrypt the PGP client side before posting.
There you go.
So we just see all this stuff going without being able to spy on us.
Oh,
No,
you
but
can do better. Do OTR.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
it. I mean, by the way, if people are ever, I think it would be nice to start mentioning privacy things you can do in your life. If people are looking for a great chat system for example, your company, your team, you can run your own IRC server, which is very easy to do. And you can even pay somebody else to do it with some shared hostings that do run it for you. Now, here's the kicker. So IRC is all clear text and zero privacy. Now, you can do OTR with many IRC clients, and it looks just like a client, and you're private and good to go.
So now a serious call. If anybody wants to see this kind of privacy on top of things like Mastodon, that there are not right now, but if you are interested, just try to integrate, for example, some kinds of GPG system or OTR on top of Mastodon. I mean, it's open source, so you can fork the code base and you can start to play with privacy features, and maybe it will be merged. Maybe we will just everybody will just migrate on this patched Mastodon. So people interested in this kind of stuff, it would be nice if you started playing with privacy on this.
Yeah, it'd be great if somebody forked it and fixed the identity problem that they have, and maybe figure out a way of distributing the content. It's all centralized. If I go away tomorrow, all those toots on my instance are gone. So mind that, and I keep on reminding people every day of that. Now there is this other project I wish somebody took over because the maintainers just cannot do UI. It's called Twister. It's kind of pretty cool concept, and the crypto is also interesting. They did manage to fully decentralize the content as well. It's P2P content. And I guess the other project that people should be looking at is called UTOX, UTOX. Those guys are doing crypto right, so it seems. They are using the right libraries, and they're doing identity right. But that one is more like a chat system. They do video as well, and it's free because it's P2P.
Rodolfo, what are you doing with all our information?
Oh, I actually have a nsa.api.mastodon.bitcoinhackers.org. And they just log in and sort of, it's just straight. So yeah.
No friction, frictionless.
Yeah, so please use the VPN. I mean, I did not sort of start that instance to fix that project or to have any intention of doing anything related to that. It's a whole other bag of hurt. I have other projects to ship and do.
Rodolfo, you said actually that you're using this URL because you had bought the domain way back. So the NSA one, you bought that too, right? I mean, that's a good one to buy. Yeah.
Yes. The Bilderberg group commissioned me to sort of like, in my pursuit to become a paid shield by Blockstream, to fully own this and eventually migrate the whole Bitcoin community into my centralized system.
I like it. All right.
Hydra.
We are moving to TA.
All right, guys, we're moving over to price. Feel free to say your goodbyes or come on back. It's up to you.
They're not allowed to leave.
No, we're gonna stay around. The only thing I have to say is we started shipping, so go to store.coinkite.com and get our stuff.
Yay!
Yeah, I'm gonna add that affiliate for you guys. This is gonna come out like this week. I just been really, really busy, and I just got an email from Amazon. Apparently I broke their terms of service. So I'm no longer an Amazon affiliate. I gotta figure out why the hell that happened.
So, somebody pointed out we actually have less margin on our hardware open dime than we do on hats. So buy a hat if you're open dime.
Gotcha. Yeah. So basically, you're still more than happy to click on these links, and because I recommend these products because I use them, but I no longer.
Your colors again.
Affiliate. I lost colors again. Man.
You know, you have colors. They're just not very pretty. They're not very beautiful. But I like when you do the TA in grays.
Yeah, it's it makes people think. I don't know what's up with that. It seems
Try
like
again.
no, I just did. We'll see what
Yeah,
happens. It seems like this happens when there's like several people on. So looks like we're gonna have weird colors again. I don't really know how to solve this problem. I've talked to Zoom about it, but I reached out to them again and they told me to talk to their like technical team, and I just don't have the time. And it doesn't seem to be a problem with less people on the stream. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on, guys. Looks
maybe
like we're
a
gonna have
precursor of learn trading prior to this upcoming TA.
Yeah. But no, I was gonna say, apparently I somehow broke Amazon's terms of service by posting links to their product. So I don't know what and again, more things that will take me 3 months to figure out because of time. But anyway, workshops. I gotta fix this as well. People are telling me there was like -9 people left in Amsterdam. So more things, more tech issues I have to deal with while I'm traveling. But yes, I am here in Vegas. The Vegas workshop is going to take place this Saturday. Still a couple of seats left. So go ahead and check that out. We will resolve the Amsterdam one. And I did decide to do Chiang Mai instead of Bangkok. And I am going to do Singapore sometime next week. Registration is going to open. And also Australia is going to be on the list probably in a week or two for registration. All right, let's finally do price. Again, I'm not sure what I can do about color here. I guess I can try to stop screen share one more time. There's really not much I can do, guys. It has nothing to do with my graphics card because this happens to other people as well when they are doing screen share. You know what if I do this? Will this help? Well, if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Then we'll do it in black and white. This is why I have my hollow candles now and solid candles for down candles. They're solid, and for bullish candles, they are hollow. So this is the monthly chart. Oh, Leah, you mind muting? You're typing, or somebody's typing. Thank you. Yeah, it's still no color. And we are still under this trend line. So let's get out of the. Oh shoot! Hold on. Let's get out of the monthly chart. Let's go straight to the weekly chart. This is the weekly chart that I've been using most often. And we are at the bottom of this triangle. I'm still expecting for us to go lower, but it'll take a little bit of time. It'll take a little bit of time for us to go lower. I can still see us going back to 7,000, but it looks like we're just gonna be in a no trade zone for a while until people get very, very comfortable with the price of Bitcoin in the $6,500 area. Once we spend enough time in the $6,500 area, probably 2 to 3 weeks, it's very possible that we're not going to move lower than 6,000 until the end of the month. I would be way more cautious right here with my bullish trades and try to time a bearish trade. Now, I would just extend this line, and once you get a closing candle below this line with the following candle opening lower than that line and starting to trend down, that should be your cue that the price is ready to move from 6,000 down to 5,000. I continue to point out the over-leveraged longs and shorts on a 4-hour chart. This is the 12-hour chart. The 12-hour chart is stuck between this red line and this blue line. The red line is at 67.50. The blue line is at 61.50 area. And as long as we're between these two lines, I would not risk trading in either direction. The moving averages are starting to come down somewhat fast. So that is going to reject the price some more. I really want to see the long and the short leverage interest. As you can see, the shorts have come down a bit. I think this needs to come down significantly further. I want to see the short interest come down to the prior peak, the peak of August 10th, before I think that shorts can then, the price can then drop. Let's wait for the RSI condition to maybe go overbought on the price. We're now above the 50 level. Let's see if we can make it all the way to 70. The
the CMF continues to be pretty weak and pretty negative, but it is showing you a little bit of divergence, even though the last couple of days have not been good. I would consider this a no trade zone. I would wait and I would look to short. If you can get to as high as 7,000, that would be great for a shorting opportunity. Or if we can get back to below 6,100, that would be another great shorting opportunity. I think going in long right now is a little risky, even though the shorts are still ripe for a short squeeze. Here's the 1 hour chart. Now you can see the 1 hour chart made it to a 9 about 5 hours ago, giving you a nice correction. This was a beautiful 1 to 4 candle correction. We are now trending back up on the hourly chart. We are above the cloud. If anyone is curious about the parameters of my cloud, I got these from Nick Crypto, who's been on this channel a couple of times. These are the parameters for my cloud on the 1 hour chart. The CMF is not too bad. And let's see if we can break above the top of this 9. If we can get the next hour to be positive and trading above 64.50, we can certainly challenge yesterday's high and go even further as high as 7,000. Like 7,000 is my ultimate top for this latest dead cat bounce before we turn around and go back down. My targets still haven't changed. I am looking for the earliest end to the bear market in late October, early November. I'm looking for the earliest end price-wise to be $5,000, $49.75, and I'm still looking for those targets. And if once we hit those targets, we can talk about the extension of the bear market beyond November, and we can talk about the extension of the bear market from a price perspective below 5,000. But I am going to stick to those numbers from now. I think it's time to close the Bcash chart. They hit their 9, look for a 1 to 4 day correction, and then an acceleration of the downtrend for another sequential 13. There could be a sequential 13 during this 1 to 4 candle correction, but I am only expecting a 1 to 4 candle correction. How high can this correction in Bcash go? It can go, it could go as high as 0.1. I highly doubt it. It'll probably go as high as 0.88, maybe 0.9, 0.09, I mean, not 0.9. 0.09 is as high as this 1 to 4 candle correction will go on Bcash. And after that, I'm expecting it to get completely destroyed. I'm not sure if I still have Ethereum up. Again, Bitcoin is going through its correction. A lot of these shit coins are going to go up a little bit, but they're going to have a disastrous time in the near future. Oh my God, the stock market rebounded insanely well. The stock market has had some really schizophrenic days back and forth. As I said, my downside for the stock market yesterday was only going to be as low as 2780, but I think I said like 2790 is more reasonable. We didn't even break 2800, and I don't know what the hell happened today, but that is a monster up gap with a huge up move. I would be, and a price flip on the sequential, I would be incredibly bullish the stock market right here. I mean, the moment we break above prior highs, we're now back in this channel in the middle. We're reaching the top of the channel. This looks absolutely great. Like I told people not to worry too much about the stock market. Euro rebounded a little bit. That doesn't really matter to me all that much. I'm not sure why I have oil up. That was, oh yeah, we were doing some QA yesterday. I want to get to the Turkish lira. Yeah, we were talking about that the other day. Like I said, we are looking at a 1 to 4 day correction over this 9. I can see us, like I said yesterday, maybe 5.5, maybe as low as 5, but I am expecting this to resume its problems. It just got a little bit out of hand. I'm just curious what else I have open here. That's back to the euro. I think the euro is going to be close to parity with the dollar in the very near future. Yeah, gold took a massive hit. Gold is on a weekly 9 that's coming to an end. I'm not surprised. I think there should be a little bit of a bounce in gold. It definitely got oversold to the downside. A little bounce in gold, but I am now eyeing sub 1,000 prices. I think gold is going back to the $800 level, and then gold could be a fairly good investment. Not as good as Bitcoin, of course, at its lows, but a little bit safer of an investment. So gold is definitely still doing okay. That's pretty much it. This was a conference I was just speaking at. It was absolutely amazing. I was on stage sitting next to Steve Wozniak. I can't wait for that video to come out. Met Molly Bloom. She is absolutely awesome. This was a really good conference with some really good speakers. I wish I got to meet Gary Vee and Common. I did not personally get to meet them. Maybe next year if we're all back at the same event. But this was really, really cool. Really had a nice chat with Steve Wozniak. He's awesome. Woz. Another conference coming up after my workshop is going to be here, the Block Show here in Vegas. And after that, I am off to Chicago, where I will be speaking 24th and 25th. And we will be doing our carnivory dinner with Jimmy on the evening of the 24th. After that, we have the blockchain cruise. I'm still looking into the speaking in Ukraine, but the Baltic Honey Badger, I will certainly be speaking there. Did their website go down? What happened? Or is it me? Well, I'm assuming the conference is still on, even though the website isn't working. But anyway, then
it goes for me. Just for me. It's
oh, okay. So it's just me then. I don't know why my internet's working, but yeah. And then Amsterdam, and then Prague, and then lots of others that I don't even have posted yet. So that's pretty much it. Again, if you guys like this podcast and our work, please support through the affiliate links. But you're welcome to still use Amazon. That one is no longer an affiliate. I got to figure out why they don't like me. This is the second time they've dumped me as an affiliate. I guess I keep breaking some kind of terms of service that are unreasonably long for me to read. But anyway, I think this was a really long episode. We covered a lot of stuff, but it was great.
This thumbnail is just killing me. I'm sorry. I was not even going to put myself on video. Tone, last question. Were you able to talk to Krugman? I think it's kind of surprising he was there.
I was able to talk to Krugman. It wasn't a very pleasurable conversation, and like I don't know.
Giacomo, come back on.
Did you talk to him, Giacomo?
Okay, sorry, I wasn't hearing the last question.
Krugman was at the conference.
Sorry again?
Paul Krugman was at the conference, which is like super surprising. So I was asking Tone.
Krugman was. I mean, I'm surprised he can even go to conferences because, as far as I understand, he uses fax machine instead of internet. So even just the website of the conference should be very, very difficult with fax machines. But I guess it's very fast with fax.
With the dollars.
But, yeah, so I wish I was on the panel with Krugman. It was I tweeted out some really bad stuff about Ripple. So there was a panel where a Ripple representative was on, Krugman was on, and Lily from the DEA, the one I interviewed, which was interesting, and she was on that panel. As far as I was concerned, she was the Bitcoin expert on that panel with Krugman and R3 and like 3 or 4 other people in the space. Tom Lee was on that panel. I think she was the biggest Bitcoin expert and crypto expert. She's been doing a lot of stuff in this space for 5 years. She understands Bitcoin in and out. She understands it the best. And it was amazing. Like the R3 guy is talking about how his prior expertise before joining Ripple was identifying scams in the financial market and profiting from shorting their companies. And he's working at Ripple. Like it was like you can't make this shit up. Only in the crypto space does this happen.
They are using Bill Clinton as an advisor or something. Is that right?
You know, it's kind of like what I tweeted, right? For $100 grand, the Clintons will endorse anything.
Right. And considering Ripple printed, $18 billion, they can certainly afford Bill Clinton.
Yeah. Go for it. And I guess just also to say regarding Krugman, if anyone's seen Saifedean's interview with Max Kaiser just came out, and it's really good. And also he makes some fun comments about Krugman. All right, everybody, what do you think? Our Star Wars crew here. Should we head out for the day?
Yeah.
This is a long one.
When I was out, I got a shipment of biltong. That's why I had to run downstairs. It's like a small bag of biltong.
Hey, Rodolfo. So I don't think we've ever done this episode without you getting Amazon deliveries like during the episode. When I get my affiliate status back with Amazon, you better be using my affiliate link. I may have to stop. I may no longer have to work again just with you as as a client.
It's all about aligned incentives, right? I'm a shareholder, so if I buy Amazon shares, I'm gonna shop where I own.
I think Prime Day went down because of you.
Yeah.
On earnings day.
Trust me, like it's my street is like every Thursday is garbage day, so every other week is recycling, right? Man, it is embarrassing. my boxes. Oh, it's so embarrassing. It's like, oh my god, it's like I have like, and I keep the biggest box I get, especially now with the baby stuff. Holy crap! I get the biggest box and then I pile on. This last week, I had 3 big boxes full of broken down boxes. The neighbors think I'm running probably like a restaurant in the house or something.
Talking about embarrassing, is that meat, the stuff that looks like chocolate that you are eating, is like a very particularly dark form of meat, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, nice.
God. All right, everybody. Have an amazing day. Thanks so much for watching. You can listen to this later on the audio podcast. For Hodl Caps, you rock. But yeah, Tone, are you speaking anymore today?
No, not today. Today I gotta catch up on a bunch of work, and then tomorrow is the law show. I think we're gonna skip the Bitcoin morning brief tomorrow, and I'll just focus on the law show. Vegas, I actually need to go out and have some fun.
Nice. Sounds like we got a day off. And yeah, I read all your guys' live comments. Have fun with that. All right, Giacomo, heading out.
See you probably not tomorrow, but next week, and I will have a hat.
Perfect. And then we're on the cruise soon. And Rodolfo, go get all your Amazon stuff and whatever you're eating. That's and have a fun day.
Yeah.
Bring along that chocolate meat.
That's right. I probably won't be here tomorrow, but I'll see you guys maybe Monday.
Perfect.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. See you all Monday. Good luck trading.
See you.
Bye.